focus. Ideate, innovate, enable. Yes Bank and CNBC-TV18 present the Growth Summit Vision for a $10 trillion economy in association with Max Life Insurance.
Now, the upcoming session is with Dr. Naresh Trehan, a stalwart in the healthcare and business sectors. So put your hands together as I have Dr. Naresh Trehan here with us, Executive Chairman at Medanta, on the topic, Unveiling Indian Healthcare as a Model of Growth and Excellence. Over to you.
Thank you very much. And ladies and gentlemen, what an absolute pleasure it is to welcome back on the CNBC-TV18 stage Dr. Naresh Trehan. He's had quite a 2023 as well with the IPO and a very, very positive, strong listing with that. So congratulations once again to you, Dr. Trehan.
Thank you.
And one of the other engines that we will need to fire up to ensure that we get to this $10 trillion mark and so on and so forth is healthcare. And while the private sector has come a long distance in being able to provide accessible healthcare in India, the public sector continues to do its part. There have been examples of public-private partnership. What do you believe the future needs to look like in order for us to be able to make healthcare affordable as well as equitable?
If you just start with one fact, that every citizen that stands on the earth of India deserves decent healthcare. So that's our starting point. Then you slice it horizontally as you go up. Then you're saying that we have 500 million people plus who were out of the healthcare loop for so many years. And with the introduction of Ayushman Bharat schemes, there has been a huge, huge relief for them, because what was shocking was that every year, 2 to 4% of the people who were above poverty line were pushed below poverty line by their burden of healthcare, right? So when you have a country where, you know, what the fact is that we are 140 crores, but not only that, we are growing at 25 million people a year. That means one population of Australia added to our economy or population or the burden, whatever way you call it, it's huge.
Yeah.
So the challenge is huge, that's one. So I think that the steps taken by the current government in introducing the Ayushman scheme has been a huge, huge relief. By the way, I wrote the first document for the Honorable Prime Minister. But then you go up higher, and then you say, what is the quality of healthcare in India? Now, per se, you can say it's two extremes. From extremely sort of poor at the bottom to today, we can compete with anybody in the world. And not only that, it'll be at 1/10 the cost. So in my own lifetime, because I spent 20 years in the US, that people used to travel from India to New York for me to operate on them, and now people are traveling from all over the world to India. To be operated on.
Yeah.
So there is a huge upside for us as far as healthcare is concerned. The only thing that we really have to understand is how to provide that health security to every citizen. So what has happened today is that if you leave the 500 million plus people who will become, or have a large number of them have already become beneficiary of the Ayushman scheme, then the next layer is state insurance, state schemes where states do support, and it's uneven, but some states are doing a great job of providing that relief to their populations, so that they are insuring them even for small amounts of money, but it does take care of, at the basic level, a lot of their problems. And then comes the government schemes. So the schemes that are like ECHS, CGHS, they cover a huge number of people who are in the government system or in the security forces, and then continue to cover them through their lifetime. And sometimes we have been blamed as doctors that when the actuaries were made, the expected lifespan of an individual was somewhere between 50 and 60. Today, it has moved up to 70 to 80. So they say the doctors are responsible, medicine is responsible for wrecking or bankrupting the system. So it is a huge burden because it requires a lot of. So now what is then above that is private insurance, which till 10 years ago was about 3% penetration, and today it's way up there, getting close to 20 eventually. Yeah. Okay. So if you stack it up, large portion of the population is covered. The one that are finding still struggling is what we call the forgotten middle. Okay, so you're saying, how do we cover them? So I think if you look at it very carefully and layer by layer improve the protection that we can give at each level, it is very possible to do. People are willing to pay. You know, if you talk about, say, the NHS in UK, people pay the whole life they pay for Social Security. Similarly, in some of the other economies, we don't have that. We do have at the lowest level, we do have ESIC, but we do not have, then in the CGHS, ECHS, the people do contribute small amounts. But if we take the forgotten middle, we need to create some innovative models for them to be covered also. Then we would have done a great job of covering India. Then you come on the provider side. So you have the security on one hand and the providers. So the providers also from 4, 5, 6 room nursing home to 2,000 bed, 1,500 bed hospitals. It will not be the same in every aspect, and it doesn't have to be that everybody who is sick should be treated in a nursing home, but it's an escalating system. So you say, at the quaternary end, you provide healthcare at a level where people who have got complex problems, complications along the treatment that they have received elsewhere, that they should be able to be saved in large percentages. Those facilities will require huge investment. And what is even worse for us right now, and I'll come back to that later, is the fact that the 3 main companies in the world who produce high-end diagnostic equipments and other therapeutic equipments will have declared their end of life 7 years. So I buy a radiation machine for 35 crores, and you tell me 7 years later there is going to be end of life is approaching and then we cannot service it anymore. That means that you are actually captive to those people. Now, that's the highest end, and when will we get there from India to that level? We do have the capability eventually to work towards that. So, providing level in the private sector and the government sector put together proved to all of India and actually the world that we handled COVID much better than most developed countries. And it happened because the government took the initiative to actually find the amalgam and broke down the silos, and we worked together intensively, and it worked. So if we continue to learn from that lesson and continue to respect each other, that we are doing whatever job we are doing, and whatever are the real costs of delivering, because a large part of it, like I told you, comes because 80% of the equipment we use is, and consumable we use are still imported, and there are stiff duties on it also.
Right.
So ultimately it filters down to the public. So healthcare may seem expensive, it is in the way when it becomes unaffordable, but at the same time, we need to look at all the inputs required to deliver different levels of medicine.
Fair point.
So that's the other side of it.
Yeah, I think you've comprehensively unpacked some of the challenges as well as some of the progress that's been made in ensuring that we can provide healthcare to a large percentage of the population. But you talked about costs, and you also talked about what it takes for providers to be able to deliver healthcare. You mentioned CGHS, and this is a matter that the Supreme Court has now sent back to the government to say that, look, we should have standardized rates for CGHS like rates across all private sector hospitals. Your peers have said that this could be a potential Armageddon as far as private healthcare industry in India is concerned, that this could lead to private providers bleeding if this were to happen. I know the matter is sub judice, but how concerned would you be if this were to go through?
So personally, I'm not concerned at all. The fact is that there are some certain pillars of healthcare which you must actually practice. The first is that you must give the highest end of medicine that is available anywhere in the world. Every Indian citizen would deserve it. Difficult to do it for everybody, but at least when somebody can seek it, should be able to get it. Second, you do it with integrity, because there should be no breakdown of trust between the public and the deliverers of healthcare. Thirdly, it has to be done with compassion and affordability. Okay, so all these four pillars must stand to actually support, and I've often said, and sometimes to the irritation of many people, that good medicine will give you good returns, good money. But good business will not make good medicine. Yeah. So there is a way of looking at medicine where you say, yes, I will do my job well. People will come to my door and give me money because you've given them relief. So it's a question of how we practice medicine and how we deliver it with a soul. And if you do that, I think that all these challenges that will come along the way, will not hurt you, but even propel you further.
Yeah.
So I think that there are models out there where we can do many, many things. And one of the main things today is that we must encourage medtech industry to come and innovate with us. See, we don't have that ecosystem yet, where the incubators, you say, the universities, the research organizations, then actually can throw up a lot of molecules. But then you need to take them to the translational stage where you need the whole ecosystem. So if you don't have that system, you will not be able you'll always be copycats. And I think now it behooves us as India, the way we are, the way the government looks at it, the Atmanirbhar, all that stuff should be actually leveraged by us in healthcare. And I think there is so much knowledge, so much, and if you look at it, one of the things, the principles of healthcare would be that technology, knowledge, moves so fast in medical sciences that when you sleep, science has already moved on.
Yeah.
So one of the things that you need to do, and we live by that, or I was trained like that, is to say, if you're not better today than yesterday, then you wasted 24 hours. If you live by that, India can be proud of its healthcare system forever, and probably, I'll just at the risk of showing off, 5 years in a row, Medanta has been named as the best private hospital in India by Newsweek International. And in comparison to 28 countries, we are in the first 150 hospitals of the world. So that's the respect we have. Not only us, many of my peers have that ability. So we are saying we can be proud of it. We need to facilitate that this knowledge, and in a way, when we talk about dragging the bottom, I can say it from my own experience. When I came back to India, when I built Escorts Heart Institute, there were no real heart surgery in this country or cardiology in this country. And today, cardiology and cardiac surgery is at world level. So this can happen if you create that standard, and people will come up to it.
Well, I think that's a very important message that, that you've shared here with us. Be better every 24 hours, and that is the path to excellence, and I firmly do believe that.
Yes Bank and CNBC-TV18 present the Growth Summit Vision for a $10 trillion economy in association with Max Life Insurance.
You talked about capabilities, you talked about knowledge, you talked about innovation. Let's talk about capital as well. And private sector providers have actually got a significant amount of private equity capital that's come in post-COVID. In fact, I was just taking a look at the numbers. We've seen a 15-fold increase to almost 30,000 crores coming to private hospitals via the private equity route. Do you believe that this is likely to continue to come your way? And what could this potentially do in order for us to bridge that gap? I mean, we're still well below the global average in terms of bed to 1,000 people. Do you believe that this could potentially accelerate expansion?
So challenge number one, we are exactly half of what we should be to be able to serve our population effectively. So we have still, so the cup is only half full. So we really need to get there. We will need capital, we will need the enabling regulations, we'll need the encouragement for people to be able to say that yes, it's a viable, progressive industry. If we try to not encourage the development of new, and some states have done it, I hope more and more will, that they realize that their states are behind. So I think India is on the move. You talk about 10 trillion. No question, healthcare will provide its own participation in that movement forward. But like I said, these hiccups will come. You should never get deterred. Look forward and say, we are going to do our best with what the public needs, and the rest will fall in place.
You know, we wake up every morning with horrific stories of young people, you know, literally dying on treadmills and so on and so forth on account of cardiac arrest. Dr. And what's going on, and what do we need to be mindful of?
Yes, so I'll walk you through. So now the question is, we said, we know the adoption because we are telling everybody the same story. So why don't we get into predictive health? Why don't we cull those people who are going to be vulnerable to XYZ disease, and then show them the evidence that how they are vulnerable, and maybe they'll listen to you. So right now, the components of predictive health is genome, phenome, and digital health. So genome being that it's become very affordable. For 10 to 15,000 rupees, you can get your whole genome mapped. And the polygenic genome mapping, which some companies are doing, very few, but we are working with them, will throw up many genes which tells you that you are vulnerable to this disease. So you know your parentage, that is one, but then there are so many other genes that will make you more vulnerable. Okay, so that is one factor. The second is phenome, means your lifestyle, your body structure, all that other stuff. And digital health means that when we do testing, your blood levels, your exercise levels, and your other x-rays or something that we have to do, that if you put it on an algorithm, and that's what we have developed, is to say, what is the individual risk? So in other words, you can create today a health Janam Patri for everybody. But yoga, very important, exercise, very important, and eat whatever, except don't eat too much. So keep your best friend is your weighing machine in your bathroom. Weigh yourself every morning at the same time. Exercise, what we call at least 3-4 times a week, 30 to 40 minutes of brisk cardiovascular exercise. Do not lose muscle mass. Especially past the age of 55, your muscle mass is what is going to protect you, your immunity, your ability to fight the environment, and your ability to stay fit in the head. And as far as I believe, there is no such thing as retirement. It should not be. You should be, whatever you're capable of doing, you should do. And just continue to engage with whatever your interest is, but never talk about, I've retired and now I'm sitting at home and become a couch potato. So I think those are the things that will keep you sharp, healthy. If you look at lawyers and doctors, the least number of, the lowest incidence of Alzheimer is in these two professions. Because like I said, they have to keep up with the law, and we have to keep up with science on a daily basis.
Well, Dr. Trehan, we hope you continue to keep up with science, and thank you so much for joining us here at the CNBC-TV18 Yes Bank Growth Summit. Thank you very much for sharing your insights as well as your stories. Let's hope that we do move towards the health Janam Batri that you spoke of, but thank you so much for joining us here this evening.
Thank you.
Yes Bank and CNBC-TV18 present the Growth Summit Vision for a $10 trillion economy in association with Max Life Insurance. Focus, ideate, innovate, enable.